Yeah, we're back, we're back, we're back, we're back, we're back. This time it's 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11. For some of you out there, that means something. Many say that 11:11 is when you see 11:11, that there is a portal that's opening, and so for some people, yours truly, 11:11 is it means something. 11:11 has always meant something. No, I'm sorry. Let me not lie. 11:11 has recently meant something to me. When I started reading about 11:11, it started to mean something. So welcome, 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 welcome to everyone this morning. Buenos dias, bon dia, to all of my people around the world. Welcome to Culture and Code. Welcome to the weekly show. We took a break last week, as most of the world did last Wednesday. If you're in the U.S., but if you're in the world, last Wednesday was the day after the election. And unfortunately, the last thing I was thinking about was doing this weekly show. No disrespect to all of you that tune in on a regular basis, but I couldn't do it, y'all. I was like, man, I was tapped out. I had never watched that much. I'd never watched that much news, and I mean, in my life, like it was just nonstop. And I used to be on CNN. I used to appear on CNN. I used to do lots of CNN. I was so tired of CNN, man, and MSNBC and Fox and tweets and blah blah blah. And so took a break last week for the election, and I've taken a break largely from other kind of internet, social media platforms. And that feels really good. It feels really good to be kind of back on this show, back on Culture and Code on this Veterans Day. Shout out to all my veterans. My grandfather, John Corrins. He was John Korinsky. He came to this country from Italy via Germany and fought for the U.S. Army. And so I remember him on this day. And remember all the veterans in my family and in your family and those who are watching. Veterans of, sound issues? Okay, that's not good. Let's get rid of this mic then. Okay, let's try again. Is that better? Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Give me a check. Is that good? Is that good? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Hopefully you can hear me. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Give me a cool. Anyway, so 11:11 is the date today, and just to reiterate, it. Okay, great. Thank you. It means a lot to some people. Veterans Day means a lot to a lot of people. We, unfortunately, on this Veterans Day, are also looking at echo again. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. Not good. Oh, okay. Okay. We're gonna get this right. Now it's echoing. Okay. Damn. Okay. Well, work with me. Work with me. How about now? Now. How about sound now? Does it sound better? Does it sound better? Yes, no. How's it sound now? Yes. We're gonna get this right. It's fine. Yes. Thank you. Okay, great. I'm a sound snob. Anybody out there a sound snob? I'm a complete sound snob. It's like my sound and my. Plus, I actually have this new epiphany about audio, and audio Okay, I'm getting that it's not good. Okay. Well, maybe you guys can head over to twitch.tv/key influencer. If you're on LinkedIn. It might be a LinkedIn problem. All my Facebook people are saying it's great. Echo, tell you what, sorry, LinkedIn people, must be LinkedIn problems today. Head over to twitch.tv/key influencer, and that might solve the problems. Sorry for LinkedIn. We're having problems. I think it's just a LinkedIn issue. I am a sound snob though. I have complete snobbery over sound. So the fact that you keep responding in the chat, echoing, it's like going to drive me to anxiety, and probably going to drive me crazy. No, I'm just playing. I love audio, especially since I started using Clubhouse. I love the idea of the voice and the power of the voice. So, it's been something that's really refreshing. I know Twitter has a new Twitter audio feature, which I think is really good. How are we doing now on sound? Sound is good. I'm just going to do, because I'm freaked out. I got to make this work. Sound is good. Everyone's good. If you are on LinkedIn, it sounds like that's a problem this morning. Head over to Twitch. So today is 11/11. Today is 11/11/2020, and for some of you, this is 11/11 has resonance. It's about the opening of a portal. When I learned about 11/11, I started seeing 11/11 at 11:11 a.m. 11:11 p.m. It might happen to you, it might not. So just want to shout out to the people who actually believe in the 11/11 thing, and believe that the 11/11 thing means something. Again, shout out to my veterans. Thank you so much for those of you who served us in military. Thank you to my grandfather, John Correns, who was a German man who went to Italy, married my grandmother. My mother was born in Italy to a German Jew, an Italian. And that German Jewish man came to the United States and fought for the U.S. Army in the 40s, and fought against the Nazi regime. So shout out to veterans out there, all of you. And rest in peace, DJ Spinbad. I just want to talk a little bit about DJ Spinbad. He was a DJ, New York City. He dies today, 43, 45, 46, something like that. Didn't know him all that well. Spent a lot of time with DJ Jazzy Jeff, and I used to manage Jeff, so I met Spinbad a couple of times, and so I just want to acknowledge his life today. And unfortunately, I want to acknowledge all the lives that we are continuing to lose due to COVID. COVID numbers are going up. I just continue to say, please wear a mask. Please make sure that you are being careful, so nothing more to say. I know there's a potential vaccine that is coming. I have some thoughts about that. I want to do a whole episode on the vaccine. In the Authenticated, we've been talking about it, about the vaccine. Question is the vaccine going to be available to those who have money? Is there going to be a strata of people who get it early because you can actually afford it? Will there be equity issues around the distribution of the vaccine? How will you distribute the vaccine globally? Who are the other companies that are out there in this Super Friends, looking for the vaccine? I think I want to do a whole show around the efforts and work around the vaccines. However, we are now talking about the election. I'm not going to get into all the election stuff, but the focus really for us post-election is a few things. One, it's we have a very divided country, right? I don't presume to know who I voted for. I don't presume to know who you voted for. And so there's this thing where there's this kind of awkwardness, right? Because so many people voted in the direction that I think that most people did not think they would vote. I personally voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't want to be honest with you, but I cannot presume that you voted for Trump or voted for Biden. So I've been thinking a lot about what is important as a country moving forward. And it's actually not, it's actually the idea of bridge building. And it's been something that I've had to practice um, even in my own circle. I personally think that the current president and votes for the president um, represent, an ideology. And so I had to spend a few days like not talking to people who voted for Donald Trump, and then coming to the conclusion that the best way we're going to build bridges to is just to be open and realize that people that in my circle, it's black men that voted for Trump. It's people you wouldn't assume who voted for Donald Trump. And so yeah, I'm just being completely transparent to you guys. I am in full on bridge building, open for bridge building mode. Took me a while to get here. Took me a lot of meditation. Took me, living on the West Coast has its treats and pleasures, and I definitely am excited about the practices that I've been able to adopt. But I am shifting my body into bridge building mode, because I think the only way we're going to move forward as a country is building bridges. And so yeah, I'm just I don't know what that means. I know it's a lot of hard days coming. I know it's a lot of hard conversations. I know I'm going to be offended. I know that I'm going to be. I'm kind of like just bracing myself. And a lot of this I learned in Atlanta, Georgia. The great thing about Atlanta, Georgia, is that Atlanta is the place that is not afraid to have tough conversations. And I learned so much about actually putting yourself in tough conversations and the power of difficult conversations. Shout out to the rituals I have in my life too. The raw spirulina chia seed pudding. This guy's an entrepreneur out of San Diego, and I see him at the farmer's market. He does a raw spirulina chia pudding. This is strawberry, plant-based, omegas and B vitamins, plus all the 9 essential amino acids. Love the power of my spirulina in the mornings. And then the other ritual I have is matcha tea. I think I'm obsessed with matcha. I stopped drinking coffee, and so I just do matcha. So I believe that bridge building is important. I believe that Atlanta has prepared me for the days to come. Speaking of Atlanta, all eyes on Georgia in the United States. If you're watching me from the United States, by the way, where are you watching me from? If you don't mind, if you're in the chat room, give me a sense of what city you're in. I'd love to know what city. I love playing this game because I literally have people all over the world. So throw out your city in the chat wherever you are. Tell me what city you're in. I see Dana from Austin, one of my regulars here. But yeah, throw out your city. I'd love to know what city you're in. And then in 5 minutes, we're going to have a guest, which I'm really excited about. He is pretty jazzy, pretty exciting. And it's going to get super global here in a minute. We'll focus on the continent of Africa, which I love talking about and being involved in and thinking about and plotting and all the stuff around Africa. And we're going to be joined by Derrick Ashong in about 8 minutes. Derrick Ashong is going to come into my little green room. So shout out to Austin, Texas, watching. Shout out to Dallas, must be a Texas thing. Shout out to Atlanta. Atlanta never ceases to let me down. Again, back to Atlanta, back to Georgia. First of all, wow. Can we talk about Georgia and the shifting, the shifting vote? I mean, I lived in Atlanta 15 years. I'm very well acquainted with Cobb County, Gwinnett County. Even though I lived in the city of Atlanta, I used the whole metro Atlanta. And I lived in Candler Park, which is a quaint little village in Atlanta. Home of the original Flying Biscuit for some of you Atlanta people. I seem to always have a whole Atlanta crew watching. The original Flying Biscuit. I lived down the street from the original Flying Biscuit. So I was really, really shocked at the way that the vote went in the state of Georgia. And I've always said this about Atlanta, even though I live in Los Angeles now. Atlanta is a very, very special place. Oh, speaking of Atlanta, shout out to my boys from Love Renaissance. You see this? Love Renaissance, one of the best music, young music talent management companies out there. Love these kids. These guys are like the next generation. And they sent me this Christmas hoodie last Christmas, and it's damn cold here in LA, so I'm rocking their hoodie. They manage Black, they manage Summer Walker, and love these dudes. LVRN, great crew in Atlanta, Georgia. So Atlanta showed up and showed out for the election. And the changing demographics, the changing political swing in the state of Georgia is one of the stories of the election. And I just, I cannot say enough great things about the city of Atlanta, the Metro Atlanta. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is there racism? Absolutely, yeah. It is a challenging place. Yeah, sorry, Cindy Johnson. Head over to we're having problems with LinkedIn today. Head on over to twitch.tv/keyinfluencer. It seems to solve the problems. Shout out to Dwayne Wiggins on the tune in. The Tonys on the tune in. Oakland, California on the tune in. New York on the check in. I see you. Atlanta is special, but all eyes are on this next race. John Ossoff, Paideia School graduate. Paideia School is where my kids went to school in Atlanta. It's a great private school in Atlanta. And then we have my friend, Dr. Raphael Warnock, who is the pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is also Dr. King's, known as Dr. King, Daddy King, which is Dr. King's father. And then, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King was the pastor there as well. And I absolutely love Raphael Warnock. That guy is a great dude. He is a great dude. He is running for senator in a highly contested race. And there's a runoff. And you may not live in Georgia, but you can support Georgia by making sure that your friends, your family, anybody connected to Georgia definitely gets out to vote. And then, look, these politicians run on, on donations. So you got some extra dough, put some money in the bag for my guy, Raphael Warnock. We might do a little thing for Raphael. We're talking about it. I actually also, one of the things, the takeaways for me about the Democratic Party too, is they just suck at digital. They're just like terrible. They're actually, and actually I love AOC's comments. If you follow, AOC did an interview in New York Times about the Democratic Party. They just like, their digital game is boo-boo. It's so whack. And, here's what I have to say about Donald Trump. Like, he has created a communication style and a way of I'm not saying I like what he talks about, so don't misconstrue where I'm going with this. But my concern, and I worked on Obama transition stuff in 2008, little bit of transition. I didn't work on a full-on campaign, but I was called upon about some ideas because back then I was a social media guy. I owned an agency. So I was called upon by the Obama team during transition. And what I always wanted from President Obama was to use social and digital in the way I'm using it, right? Like I have a weekly show, weekly address, like I just felt like, be person, you use your person, sound like a human, don't have a press secretary, involved. Then I get Donald Trump, who is doing the things I proposed to the Obama administration, but without a filter. So like somewhere in the middle is kind of what I'm looking for. Not full on Trump tweeting and not, no filter. and not the Obama White House, which was, they did a good job of like using digital and social to get elected, but they were really, really bad at like engage the White House, not just Obama as a person, the White House. And so I think the next administration should really, really think about how you turn that thing into a broadcast channel so that American citizens and citizens around the world can learn more and understand more about the different components of the government. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. I've just been thinking about like, man, like what I will say about Donald Trump and the Republican Party is they're just like they're like better hip hop marketers. Like they understand like grassroots marketing, digital and physical, much better than the Democratic Party. And if I were advising the Democratic Party, I'm also manifesting that. I feel like they're going to call me soon. I would be helping them with their look at their what I call their digital and their culture strategy, which I think is really off. I think their digital culture strategy is off. I think that's part of the reason that the Democrats, they're just not connected to the streets. Like they have zero street game, if you would, That's my thoughts. Who am I? But a guy who worked on like 2 weeks worth of Obama transition work, and then they never called me again. But if I was on transition Biden-Harris team, these are some of the ideas I'd be sharing with them. So super excited about what's happening in the state of Georgia and Raphael Warnock, Dr. Warnock, who is a friend of mine. He is a Morehouse graduate. He is a man of the cloth, but he's a G, man. He's a G. He is a street fighter. He gets arrested. He has been a protester. He in the spirit of Dr. King and the church of which he presides over, Ebenezer Baptist Church. Dr. Warnock is a straight up guy, and I highly recommend that you support Dr. Warnock in his race for the Senate race. And support Georgia. Man, Georgia is shocking to me. It's fascinating what's happening there. I love that I called it home for 15 years. And I just want to acknowledge I'm very excited that we have a new White House. Joe Biden, was he my first candidate? Absolutely not. Is he the right candidate for the job and the better of the two? Hands down, without a doubt. And I am just so excited for Kamala Harris, also an alum of my elementary school. Fun fact. Shout out to Thousand Oaks Elementary School in Berkeley, California, where we both went to school. And I recognized that I was actually on campus at the same time in school, in elementary school, with Kamala. So I'm super excited about having a woman in the White House, a Black woman, a multicultural woman, a woman that is a graduate of an HBCU, and because I'm married to an AKA, a woman who is a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And shout out to the Divine Nine who stepped up and really made sure that this White House changed hands. And so I'm excited this morning. The last thing I just want to share with you before we get to our guest is The Authenticated. Well, The Authenticated is a community that I started. We are 300 people deep. We are your venture capitalist. We are your NFL player. We are your lawyer. We are your former NBA player. We are your music manager. We are your government official in Dubai. We are Dubai. We are Oakland. We are LA. We are Atlanta. We are Jerusalem. We are very global, and we're a community of folks that are building a city in the cloud. We have an app, a mobile app. We have I've done probably 100 Jeffersonian dinners in the virtual space. We've done 3 summits, and we've been closed. We haven't been open to people. We've been pretty much just hunkered down, building some really fun tools in the back end of what I do. So the front end is kind of the membership community, and the back end is kind of the work that I do, matchmaking. And so we're really excited because we're actually building technology around that, and we are going to be opening. Big news, big news, big news. Ring the bell. Ding, 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 ding. We're opening enrollment 12/10, December 10th. We're going to have like a Culture and Code Festival, which is the festival we do. And then we're going to be taking new folks in. We scrutinize. It's not for everybody, to be honest with you. We're making sure that we're vetting for generosity, vetting for badassery, and vetting for lots of things that we think make up a great community. And we'd love to have you. Find out more. Text me 415-843-8100 with the authenticated. You can find me. If you can't find me, you're not doing your work. I'm so easy. I've donated every single SEO data point. Super excited now to join me on the screen. My homeboy, Derrick Ashong. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Either it's me or hold on.
Yeah, you sound great.
Oh,
Can
good.
you hear me?
Perfect. What up?
Okay, that's what's up. What's up?
Wagwan. Okay.
What, my brethren?
Yeah, man.
Chilling, man.
Dude,
I hear you jumping in political science.
Yeah, it's jumping a little political marketing science. Yeah. I feel like this is for a lot of us. We had to go back into our political science bag in the last week.
Yeah. Big time. I mean, at least I can sleep at night a little bit, even though I know they're still trying to act stupid. But at least, the baseline has been covered. Last week was crazy.
I learned more about American counties.
Yeah.
I actually was joking. I was like, I now know where not to stop at a Walmart or a gas station if I ever drive from across the country. Not that county. Maybe that county.
Yeah, this one. We're just going to keep going. We'll do the limit and we'll keep going.
That's right. But actually, and we'll talk about this a little bit in our time, I actually am really sort of thinking a lot about bridge building. And as much as, we got to acknowledge that there was a lot of voters that voted for Donald Trump. I acknowledge on my show that I voted for Biden and Harris. And you can't assume that. Like, I don't know who you voted for, right? Like, I think that's interesting.
I voted for Biden Harris. Very much. Yeah.
Okay, cool. But I say that joking, not joking, because a number of black men voted for Donald Trump, and shocked me on my own Facebook page. A number of people that the Soho house waitress chick that I know on Instagram, like people like, oh, I know you every day. It's your baker, your maker, your candlestick maker. Like a lot of people in your daily walk voted for Donald Trump. And so I took 3 days, like with voodoo dolls and putting pins in them and like going, and then I kind of woke up and I said, this is the era of the bridge builders. This is the era when I've got to, as a leader, I've got to figure out how to be open to, this acceptance of other people in America and their thoughts, and because a lot of black folks, a lot of Latinos, a lot of folks that you don't think voted for Donald Trump voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it's funny because I was talking to my wife about how, like, you think people, how they roll, and and then you find out, hey, there's other factors at play. And in this particular situation, I approach it from the perspective of an immigrant, and all immigrants are not on the same page.
That's right.
But I'm like, I came to this country for opportunity, or really my parents did, and then they brought me. And I still have ties to the rest of the world. Right. And when I see America, which has been a beacon of hope where so many people came here, it's like the best and the brightest, whatever they come from, is trying to find their dreams here. And I see America turning its back on those people, not for the first time, by the way, but in a way that's so blatant in the era of instant communications that I can't be down with that, because what it does is it devalues the humanity of the people where I come from. And we are proud people. I mean, to be honest, it's part of the reason why I left the country. I'm talking to you from the African continent, really from the island, Mauritius, off the coast, east coast. But I left. I took my family too, because I was like, I don't want my kids to grow up like this. I don't want them to grow up in the land where, the powerful determine that you come from a shithole country or not. I know where I come from, and I wanted to help them understand where they come from too.
Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about, for people that don't know the Derrick Ashong story, and I don't think I knew all the story. I mean, I know we had a great meeting a couple years ago in LA, and I'd heard about you, and I was just doing some homework last night. And man, you are like the Paul Robeson of. Shout out to Paul Robeson fans. I took a Paul Robeson class in UCLA. Paul Robeson was a Rutgers football star, an activist, a singer. I mean, he just was all the things, you know.
The man. Yes.
The man.
A revolutionary.
Yes, a revolutionary. I look at you in light of those great black multi-hyphenates who are not defined by one thing, gifted at many things. And also, what also strikes me in my research, this is just like fresh off the dome, like me, you're a man of many patois, right? Like you'll flip into a Brooklyn twang, and then because you've lived in so many places, Middle East, you have this relatability to the world that I think is incredible. I assume it's because you've lived in many places, and I kind of share that. Like I have. I'll drop a Yala BB in a minute. You know what I'm saying? I'll drop a Future Bang in Brazil. That was my takeaways from my research last night. But for those who don't know you, maybe give us your tour through the Derrick story a little bit, because I don't even know where to start and where you. I know you were born on the continent. Maybe we can start there, and then how you begin to bop around these places.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the high level, and we can go in any directions you want. So basically, I was born in Accra. I was born in Ghana.
Okay.
And when I was about 3, 4, I moved to Flatbush.
Wow. Okay.
So,
cool.
Yeah. So
give me context.
This is like 1979.
Okay, you're 79. Good years. Okay, so Rappers Delight. Okay, 3 years old. Rappers Delight. Okay, keep going. I'm gonna weave hip hop through this whole thing.
I love it. That's what's up. So I grew up in New York City in the not at the very birth, but in the during the process of the birthing of hip hop.
Yeah.
And I was there until until I was about 8 years old, and then I moved to Saudi Arabia. I moved to Riyadh. Then when I was 12, I moved to Doha, Qatar. And then I stayed there until the first Gulf War, used to go to school with a gas mask, the whole nine. And I moved from Doha back to the States. I moved to South Jersey, just outside of Philly, and did 2 years of high school. And then I went to Harvard as an undergraduate, and I went back for graduate school. And then, the career and the whole nine, which I'm happy to talk about. But basically, culturally, every 4 years till I was 20, I moved to a new country. So my wife also has jokes because she's like, yo, your accent changed all the time. I'm like, well, because that's how I talk. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. You are sweating me about the way that I talk. Me, I'm just communicating. That's all. You know what I'm saying?
I'm low-key jealous. That's actually what it is. I'm low-key jealous because my family laughs because I want to be able to switch my language. But whenever I'm in a place, I talk like them.
And it happens. Right? Yeah. It's so normal because the way we grew up, it's like we had to learn to vibe and fit in. And the thing that's funny, when I came to the US, I already spoke 4 languages. Like I started losing languages when I was a kid.
Wow.
I spoke English. I spoke my dad's language, Ga. I spoke my mom's language, Chia. And I spoke the language of my mom's hometown, Latte. So I had all 4. And then I got here and it's Brooklyn. So all I speak is English. That's it. And so then, they had to try to figure out how to bring it back. And so I still speak some English. I speak my dad's language. My mom's language, I can understand as long as we're not talking about, what I'm saying, like financial markets. And then I started learning French and Spanish and Portuguese and things like that. But it
sounds like also like me, you're someone who probably picks up languages really easy.
Yes.
See?
Because I was so used to it. Me too. You know what I'm saying? Por supuesto. So it's like when you're around it all the time, it just gets in you. And that's why the accents flip so much because you become accustomed to shifting depending on the space that you're in.
Yeah. So you went to Harvard, and I assume you went to Cherry Hill High or something, or where'd you go to high school?
I went to Eastern High School, right next to Cherry Hill. Rival. You see, you're the man of the world. You know what's up.
Dude, I have hood cats everywhere. I'll drop a John on you in Philly in a minute. I know where to get steak.
Philly Johns.
Yeah, I do. I know too much about all these places. But you end up going to Cambridge. I love when Harvard people say they didn't go to Harvard, they went to Cambridge. You went to Cambridge.
I know. They're like trying to be like subtle and whatnot. I'm like, nah, this is what it is. What it is.
I went to Harvard, right?
Pretty much.
you go to Cambridge and you go to Harvard, and I assume you were a great student in high school, and you know, because you don't get in Harvard with bad grades. So you get to Harvard, and who's the Harvard freshman, Derrick, at this point?
So at that point, it was very interesting because
And what year? Give me the year again that you enter Harvard.
I went in fall of '93. And,
Hmm.
on just talking about these cultural identity questions, like
Yeah,
if you asked me my freshman year, like if you ask me now where I'm from,
yeah.
I'm like, yo, I'm American, I'm Ghanaian, blah, 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 blah. But if you ask me my freshman year where I was from, I'm like, I'm from Brooklyn. Like,
Okay, got
I,
it.
that, right? I didn't fully understand my African identity until college,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
really interesting. And it's not that I discovered it there.
Yeah,
It's just that it came into being context. It was so taken for granted that
right.
it's like my parents flip into different languages all the time. I
Yeah.
remember this one time, this kid literally asked me, like, this British kid came to my house and he was like, "Oh, your mother's got a funny accent." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about? My mother doesn't have an accent." He's like, "No, she does, innit?" I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you gonna talk about my mom's like that? Back up, son." And so I go home and I'm just like, this dude is talking all this yang, and I see my mom say, "Oh, Nana, how are you?" I was like, my mom has an accent. Like it never occurred to me. So by the time I got to college, and then you really, find your identity, you're doing the whole BSA thing and African Student Association, etc. And I had to be like, oh, where do I sit in all these cultures? So Caribbean Club, Fuerza Quisqueana, Lao, all the Black and Latino organizations. And I realized, like, I kind of sit in the diaspora. Like, I
Yeah.
feel a connection to many different places and many different spaces. And that's when I started wondering, like, well, what is it about my culture that enables this? Where's my root? And I went back to Ghana when I was 20
Oh,
for my
wow.
study abroad. And that is
Oh,
when it all clicked. I was like, oh, we are like the birth of Pan-Africanism is here.
wow.
And that's why it's natural to feel connected to one
Yeah.
another.
Can I ask about your family? And is that what took you
Yeah.
around the world? Is it military diplomacy, something like that?
So my dad is a pediatrician. He was training doctors around the world. My
Okay.
mom, unfortunately, is no longer with us for the last 2 years, sadly.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
she is, thank you. But she's an amazing person, very, very impactful in my life. And she was a nurse. And so they together
Wow.
were caring for people in different parts of the
Yeah.
world. And it was a beautiful upbringing. At the time when I was a kid, I was like, they'd be like, oh, this summer we're going to go visit Thailand. And hey, we're going to take you to Hong Kong. And I'm like, oh, man, I want to go to Jersey. I was like, ignorance. So thankfully they had more insight than I did.
That's great. And so, what did you end up studying at Harvard, and what did you do after undergrad?
So I started out in government. I moved into African American studies and focus on African political economies and some related things. Then in graduate school, I went into a PhD program looking at really, it was Afro American studies and ethnomusicology. But
Oh,
yeah, it was like, but my thinking about it was a little different. I was studying how trends in open source software map onto ideas of open source content. So how do you think of like
wow.
the cultural anthropology of technology and music?
Love
And
it.
it was super fresh. It was super fresh. I learned so much. It influenced my entire life and career. But my professors were like, what are you doing? Like, you should be in a village with a tape recorder. And it came to a head at one point where they're like, why you are so alternative? And they chewed me out. And then the head of my department one day on the music side, she literally is, after chewing me out, she's like, yeah, and I was in sabbatical in Bamako, and I was listening to the radio. I was like, is that Derrick Ashong? And I was like, I'm telling you, I'm doing all this stuff about how ways of thinking about software, applying those thoughts around intellectual property to content can help you create multilateral flows of information and content through societies. You and Molly hearing me on the radio, you ain't ask yourself why. And so I was like, this is not for me. So I dropped out of grad school after 4 years of PhD and then went into industry.
Small world. Let me name drop a little bit. Was Dr. Marcelina Morgan in your world?
Hip Hop Cultural Archive, my girl. Yes, I remember her. She was there when I was a graduate student. She was amazing.
So she was my wife's, dissertation professor, or whatever you call it,
Wow.
at UCLA during her master's program at the famed UCLA African American Studies program here on the West Coast. And then she left
That's dope.
UCLA and went to Harvard to open up the Harvard Hip Hop Archives. Absolutely.
That's right. That's right. She's wonderful. That's crazy. The world is like this big.
Exactly. Her and Bobo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. So
The sociologist.
that's right. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I introduced Nas to her, and Nas ended up
Okay.
joining the board there.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, Harvard. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Harvard has the Harvard Hip Hop Archives, and it's an incredible space and learning institution. I ran to Ninth Wonder there one day. He was doing a
Wow.
fellowship. Like, yeah, my son was. We were doing college tours, and we went and saw
Okay.
Dr. Morgan. So you, your work is incredible, and I'd like to kind of just talk about the company that you started and sort of how you arrived. For every entrepreneur, they always say, what's the problem you're solving in the world and why are you the
Yeah.
most qualified to solve it?
That's
So I'd
right.
like to talk about what you're solving and kind of a little bit of your journey about why you're the most qualified to solve that.
Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of the journey, then the
Yeah.
problem, and it should click. So, when I got out of school, I got recruited out of graduate school. I was doing a lot of stuff in industry. I worked for a big record producer named Dave Stewart from Eurythmics.
Yeah.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Yeah,
Wow.
so
Wait,
I
okay,
ran a business.
let me put it. Okay, because the part that I also in my research I'm totally thrown off on, and the cadence and the dates and all of it doesn't line up. I don't understand. Did you become an artist while you were at Harvard?
Yeah, okay, so
Okay,
that's a good
I'm so
question.
confused.
So, yeah, so I became an artist like early in the game, but at Harvard I started to learn and refine it. And then when I graduated, I was an actor and a musician and an instrumentalist.
Wow.
But when I graduated, I apprenticed with a producer, a guy named Frank Wilkins, who was teaching at Berklee School of Music,
Okay.
and he taught me music production.
Wow.
So I started it when I was in college, when we were still,
Okay.
up there on like 1-inch tape and all of this. But then when I got out, he helped me, and I started learning more, and I started getting into Pro Tools and all of the digital stuff, and
Right.
so I started making records on my own while I was in graduate school.
Wow.
So when my professor was hearing me in Mali, it was a record that I produced part in Cambridge, part in Accra, and part in Kingston. And it was like, yo, man, we got Bounty Killer to drop, 16s on this joint. Like, hey, so they're like, you should be doing more academics. I'm like, this is academics. You know what I'm saying? It's experiential learning. But anyway, so I was already an artist. And what happened is when I went to work for Dave Stewart, I was still recording and producing. And I took that job because he was like, okay, you're an artist. But you understand the business and you obviously want to do more. I will help you learn the business, and you can still do your art, and we can be partners,
Right.
collaborators. So I was, we're not partners like, equal on the cap table,
Right.
but I was learning from him. He was my mentor.
Wow.
And I was the head of business development for his company, Weapons of Mass Entertainment. So I owe a deep gratitude to him because that's where I learned. And I got signed to another label while I was there. I got signed a couple of times, did not enjoy the experience. I actually had reached a broader global audience independently.
Okay.
And what happened is I got sucked out of that and basically wound up working for a lot of other luminaries in the field. I'd done stuff with Steven Spielberg, obviously as an actor earlier. I wound up working with Oprah, worked with Al Jazeera, with BET, worked with ABC Disney, basically scaled interactive media house assets to like 300 million households. And at a certain point, I'm looking up and I'm just like, wait, you're reaching 300 million households. We don't know who any of the people are. Like, we have no idea who's watching. And I'm like, and it's me. We had a video once in the band that charted #4 in Ghana. It was R. Kelly, Usher, Beyonce, and then my band. And this was while I was still in grad school.
Wow.
And we're like, yo, that's dope. Well, for Beyonce, it's all good because she's got the label infrastructure to move what she's doing. But for us as indies, we were like, well, if I just knew where those fans were that were watching me in 65 different countries, I would know that I should go tour in Nigeria, or should it be the Czech Republic, or should it be Brazil? But we don't have any data.
That's right.
And so that is my origin story. I got to the point where I was just like, everything I do in tech is full of information. Everything I do in art and media and content is a little touchy-feely. It's beautiful, but we don't have the data. Like, what if we could take some quantitative rigor to these qualitative processes? What kind of powerful engine could that be? So that's what I did. I built a big data engine for the media industry, and that's AMP. AMP Global is big data for big media.
Wow. Okay, let me unpack parts of this. So it's your pedigree and your experience and the tutelage that you were able to get. You sound like you have the gift of gab, clearly. So I imagine getting inside rooms was not hard. Was not hard for you.
Just talk in the hallway until they let you in.
Yeah. So you have a mouthpiece. That's what we call that in Oakland. You have a mouthpiece, and you're able to move around. You're able to take your love of music and technology and data, and both live it out as an artist. So you're a player coach. Like, you're not just like theorizing about what would an artist want in data, or what could an artist do with data, but you actually become an artist who's actually utilizing data. And then you build this business, which really, I'm just going to use artist. It does more than artists. It's really helping those in media, and media is the platform and the vehicle by which artists obviously use, to understand where to go. And then we'll talk about like what's happening with that today. I work in the music business, as you know. I work at Sony. So so your years are 93 to 97. You're at Harvard, right? Okay.
That's right.
And then you take some time, and then you maybe the early 2000s, you're grad school. Is that kind of?
That's right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm doing the math here. So just back to hip hop. 95 is a really important year in hip hop. 95 is the year that I moved from LA to New York to work for Columbia Records. 95 is also when we had some incredible albums. Hip hop kind of turns the corner. We have the East Coast, West Coast thing going into the 90s. I was there at Biggie's platinum party at the Palladium when he was sitting in the chair. Hot 97 was dominated by Sean Puffy Combs. New York City is on fire. LA is on fire. Hip hop is at its, definitely moving from, what I call the rapping about MPVs into G4s. Like we started going, right. We started talking about empires. We started looking at hip hop artists as startup founders and entrepreneurs. I can contextualize that now. And working at Columbia Records, my data sources were two things. One, BDS and SoundScan. BDS measures radio play, and SoundScan measures sales. And we use that as our North Star and our data points. But it was faulty sources, because I was like, okay, airplay is like, how much money did I pay independent promoter people who are basically the mafia, and then how much am I paying the mob to play my records? And then the other source was sales, which is the manifestation of also end cap positioning at Tower Records and how big your display was when you walk in the warehouse. So I always thought those were faulty data sources. So I always used my data sources, which was my spidey sense and my hood sense. So if I drop into a Dallas, drop into a city, and people were talking about my record, I had to go back to New York City and defend that record and say, no, I don't care that it's not being played on the radio, but there's a spidey sense, there's a street buzz happening.
That's right.
And those of us that were Black folks who worked in music back then had to rely and defend our street sense and our street sensibilities than to somebody who was holding the bag and holding the purse strings. And so there would be no Fugees, there would be no Maxwell, there would be no even Destiny's Child if folks who had street sense. And so it's interesting that you are solving for this opportunity for folks to understand data better, for media channels to understand data. And I just would love to talk more about, because I know a little bit more now since we reconnected recently about what you're doing on the continent, because I think it's not only the most important work that we should be thinking about and will be effective for the continent, but it's a global opportunity for media publishers, for artists, for creatives.
100%. And I love how you contextualize that in your own experience, because obviously you're been a legend in the game. I told somebody, a friend, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this thing on James Andrews. I was like, James Andrews, I love James Andrews. I'm like, who doesn't love James Andrews? I mean, we know this, man. So, but what you're talking about that spidey sense, that ear to the street, is really important. And it's particularly important because at the end of the day, there are young people in each of these communities, or there's OGs in each of these communities, who, when they say something's hot, people listen. They're the people who move the needle, and they're not necessarily the people you think about. If you don't know, you don't know. And the question is, when you get that sound scan, okay, you know how many sales you got, who bought the record? How do we reach out to them to sell them a concert ticket or a t-shirt or whatever, what I'm saying? And now we replicated the same thing in the digital world. It's like, yo, we put the joint out, we got 20 million views. Okay, now here comes the next one. How do you reach the 20 million people?
Exactly.
You can't. Facebook, Google, they'll tell you how many watch, they won't tell you who they are. So
Right.
that's where we specialize, right?
Love
We
it.
specialize in two kinds of data: flat data, which is the baseline demographics,
Yep.
name, gender, whatever, identity, location, that age, that basic stuff is already a quantum leap from where we are.
Yeah.
With everything else.
Right.
And
Agreed.
then we go to the living data, which is like, oh, this person is a tastemaker. Oh no, she's a maven. She's going to figure out what's hot before anyone else knows. Well, that one is an early adopter.
Wait, so you're,
And then
so you're building archetypes and personas from the data? This
yes,
is damn. Sorry for you data
that's
nerds
right.
out there. You're seeing me getting a little squirmy in my seat because I'm
Yeah,
getting really excited. This is
it's fresh.
This is
It's fresh,
pornography.
and there's another level of it, and I'm glad you like that, because this is the type I could talk about this shit all
I
day.
can,
You know what I'm saying? But I'm like,
wow.
because at the end of the day, it's about understanding the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the people who make what we do possible. So then we can go even deeper and say, hey, yo, this girl, she's a early adopter when it comes to consumer electronics, but she's a tastemaker when it comes to electronic dance music. And she's a maven
Right.
when it comes to street fashion or street style, whatever the case may be. And she's predominantly, her influences in, Gothenburg, or her influences in Durban, or whatever the case may be. Like, that's the kind of granular detail, so that when you're thinking about, how do I launch a product? How do I release a record? How do I launch a film? How do I do a campaign with my new, lipstick or fashion line or whatever? We actually understand the audience. That is where we specialize. That is my passion. My origin comes from having done stuff all around the world and had no idea who I was reaching, because we were independent, and realizing that wasn't just a problem for the indies, it's a problem for the entire industry.
Oh God, this is so timely. We're in the middle of building something at the Authenticated right now. I'm just like, it's like ding, 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 ding. You're on, flashing. For my homeboy Omari out there, my IT guy, my developer, my product guy. I know you're watching this, going, yeah, that's an interesting idea. We'll have to talk to you after this. No, that's great. I think data is one thing, but the insights around the data. So I left the music business, and after my frustration there, I went and built a social media agency, and I specialize in social media data. And I scraped data and drove traffic, and I always felt like, okay, there's data sources everywhere, but the insights around the data, like the ability to be like, okay, I can tell you the story behind that data point, is really the magic. And I think that look, I really live this life. So I really, like we were joking earlier, but I can drop a John in Philly. I do know a good ballet funk in the favelas of Rio. I do know my way around a Stockholm no-go zone with the Somalis. Like, I live the life. I don't just talk about it. I really live the life. But for those who don't, right? They are reliant on data and storytelling and all these kinds of things. And I think what's interesting about what you're doing is it does two things. And one, it gives confidence to people who buy against data or buy advertising spots and dollars, right. Call them the confidence that there's some more behind that. I'm going to reach my consumer. And then it also gives the creative who's making the art, right, feedback loop. Like, hey, this is cool. Like, they're responding to this. I need to go deeper into this kind of content because it's responding to, the data that's out there. There's a guy I want to introduce.
And I want to build a closer relationship with these kind of people.
With these kind of people
might not know, but this is my guy. This lady, she's the one that makes my stuff move.
Yeah, I want to introduce you to a guy named Maurizio Mota, if you don't know him already.
Oh, he's the man. He's the man. Brazil's finest.
Yeah, he's been doing stuff in data and media, and he's
transmedia, the whole nine.
He's the only other person that I talk with at this level about like the intricacies of data, content, culture. I think we are an elite group of people who can both synthesize data, live out the culture, and be able to kind of translate that to buyers, creatives, because that's also what your gift, I think, is. You're a creative who's a technologist, who's a data person. So talk a little bit about how you're manifesting all of that in the latest and greatest of what you're working on.
Okay, first of all, you putting me in the same category with yourself and Mauricio is high praise. I'm blushing. Nobody can tell, but I'm blushing under here. So thank you for that. On the real, what we're doing right now is very cool. So very quick background. when we created the platform, it's very internal. I mean, it's a B2B
Yeah.
type of software solution. And we had a hard time trying to show people like what we could do. And so we were like, well, why don't we create a show that showcases how this can work for other content owners? So we created something called Take Back the Mic, the World Cup of Hip Hop.
Yeah.
It's part Anthony Bourdain meets like American Idol or Eurovision, right? Music competition, but instead of being in the studio, with the celebrity deciding if they like your haircut, in this case, we're really taking you into the streets. And we're going to discover the streets of Rio or Medellin or Kingston through the eyes of the artist. So that's where we started. And we got an Emmy nomination out the gate, lost to Taylor Swift. Trying to shake it off, but these things happen. But then from there, we actually did it again. We expanded to Mexico, República Dominicana, all this cool stuff. And we started to realize, hey, there was something powerful here. We got 2 back-to-back Emmy nods for Outstanding Interactive Program. We were finalists twice. And then we had an opportunity to partner with ITV, who owns The Voice, and do a really cool project, which will hopefully be coming out next year on Apple TV+. While all this was happening, we're looking at where could we go in and expand, because we realized that, we're good at tech. We're good at content too. And it's from being, starting as an artist, right? We just have a different vision of how to tell a story. And so what happened is we looked at Southeast Asia and Africa in particular, and we realized if you ask people what are the hot shows in Africa, they're going to be like, yo, X Factor. Hey, yo, we love Big Brother Africa, BB Niger. Oh, yo, Real Housewives of Johannesburg. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But it all came from outside. Like, where's the indigenous format that was born here and went all around the world carrying our cultural perspective and letting other people be able to make it their own as well? As far as we can tell, it's never been done. There's been lots of shows and movies and content created. We have not found a format that was born in Africa and exported to the world. Where's our voice or X factor? So we took Take Back the Mic as a concept. We built it into a consumer-facing native application. You can check it out at takebackthemic.com. That's takebackthemic.com, or on the App Store or Google Play Store. And then we built a show, a TV version of what we had previously done just on mobile devices, and we call that The Mic Africa. That is what we're doing right now. We've done partnerships with media companies across the continent. We've built our own distribution network with local broadcasters with a reach of over 100 million people. And on December 6th, we launched this show. We set out to get 100 artists cast or registered to cast 18, 1,200 kids registered. We got some incredible talents from Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Mauritius, Rwanda, South Africa. And what we're doing is showing that you can have the audience have a voice in casting and curating content and elevating talent, and yet also have a deeper understanding of that audience and what they care about, and reward them for their taste.
Wow. Okay. We only blocked an hour for this show. I have lots of questions, but is part of the business model involve the further cultivation and curation of that talent? Like, is there a William Morris CAA model behind it? Is there a record label behind it? What other pivots do you take with the newfound talent, those who win and those who don't win?
Yeah, so that's a perfect question. So we have a really cool way of working with the artists where we're almost like a catalyst in helping them to build their career and identify opportunities. As we scale, we may actually wind up building the equivalent of a management company or 360 opportunities. Right now, we're not quite there yet. So what we've done is partner with, certain collaborators in different countries that can provide those services. But we will be looking to get these artists into management opportunities, distribution opportunities, publishing, touring when the world opens up, the whole nine. So there's a really cool thing there. And I would love to talk to you deeper offline about how we're thinking about that. And we have some great advisors that have been helping us figure it out.
Do you know these guys, Love Renaissance? I showed my hoodie. Do you know these guys?
Oh, that's fresh.
Love Renaissance is out of Atlanta. They too represent immigrant hustle. You got a Nigerian guy, a kid from Jamaica. They manage Black and Summer Walker. They're probably one of the hottest management companies in the game. I'm gonna introduce you to them. They're great. Those are my guys out in Atlanta. One of the top new up and coming management companies. But they think like an agency. They're like brand builder, management, kind of. They have their own merchandising. They think more like esports athletes. I'm all about people who think like esports athletes.
I love that. And that's the thing. It's like realizing that we get we can all move outside of our traditional comfort zones because it is a transmedia world. Like, I'll give you an example of the people we're working with, right? So we partner with a company called Mega Electrics, which owns the biggest radio stations in Nigeria, Multimedia Group, biggest TV and radio in Ghana, Royal Media Services, biggest TV radio in Kenya, Royal, the Rwandan Broadcast Agency, all of these cats who have taken the risk of being like, oh, we'll do this with you across TV, radio, digital apps, mobile websites, social media, the whole nine in an integrated campaign. And the reason they're willing to do that with artists that no one has previously heard of, or at least relatively fewer people, is because they realize that once you give the audience a voice, then there's a power in how they leverage that voice over time. So this is a launch of a show, but it is the building of a movement. And we started realizing the reward that we could offer people, the most valuable reward on the continent, was mobile data. So we partnered with like 9 Mobile, which is the 3rd largest telco in Nigeria, to give data rewards. So as you discover stuff and you get points for watching and sharing, etc., you're earning the mobile data so you can get online because your taste is your currency. That's what we're getting at, is there's a generation of tastemakers all around the world. Urban cultured youth, right? Wherever they may be. In the US, people say urban, they think black. I'm like, no. We're talking about Korea. We're talking about Paris. Well, Paris, it probably is black. But we're talking about the whole African continent, Latin America, everywhere. And I think that in recognizing that and partnering with people who are willing to push the envelope, like the folks you're talking about, where it's like, oh, we management, oh, we agency, but we think like esports, like we flex beyond the boundaries. That is where there's opportunity to build, I think, the next iterations of the music industry, of the film industry, the whole nine.
I think it's back to what we talked about earlier. It's this multi-hyphenates. Like I just invested in a record label about a year ago, and the whole idea, it's called More Than Enough. A kid named Jahi Lake, who was my intern, Wesleyan graduate, great kid. The idea is that, artists are multi-hyphenates. So the first artist, she's a Nigerian Polish girl. She's been modeling for Nike. She's a fine artist. She had a first show in Brooklyn, but she's an incredible vocalist. She's Lenny Kravitz's goddaughter. Her name is Anastasia. She traveled all of Europe dates with Lenny. And I don't even know where to put her. Like, she literally has art. She's a model. She's like, I think that's the next generation of multi-hyphenates who think about their art very differently. Think about, they're just not a recording artist. They're an artist who has a voice, who have a message, who have a gift to the world, and they want to be able to understand their consumer and their fan and their passionista in a completely new way.
Exactly. And the thing that we found that's been so beautiful is it's like we've got all of these people who are, some of them are, it's not just like a rap competition, for example. Like, we got MCs, we've got graffiti artists, we've got dancers, B-boys and B-girls. Like, it's really amazing. And one of the things that we saw is like some of these kids, one MC is like a graphic designer and an animator as well and makes his own videos. This other young lady, she's a vocalist, she's a beautiful singer and a sick MC and a beastly guitarist. And we actually were fortunate, we got a billboard in Times Square. I think it may be the first time that a show on African youth culture has ever had a billboard in Times Square. And on it is this girl right there. And it was crazy. And you see her face, and it's like from Durban to the center of the world. I mean, it's so powerful when you look at these multi-hyphenates and how when you realize that when you can walk and speak in those different languages and those different tongues, you can speak to anybody. And we need to stop thinking of Africa as like, a sidebar to global culture. I think Africa is going to be a centerpiece of global culture. Yeah. And that's part of where what we're doing is we're not doing a show for the continent. We're doing a show for the world that showcases the best of Africa.
Oh, man, this is great. This is great. For those of you who've been with us, welcome to Culture & Co. Weekly. This is our weekly show. We sit with folks in our network and unpack the jewels and the gems and the cheat codes. Today has been no shortage of cheat codes for anybody who's been thinking about launching a business, and for anybody who thinks that they're a creative and they're sitting in a cubicle and they haven't expressed their the side of them that's both artistic and analytical, both data and digital and culture and code. This episode is for you. Hopefully you share it with your friends. share it with people out there that want to be inspired. I think this has been an incredible conversation around things that I find passionate, which are data, hip hop, music, global nomads, and you know, your when I asked the question earlier of like, what's the problem in the world you're solving, and why are you the most qualified? If you guys haven't gotten that today, this guy is definitely solving a problem, but also has been groomed by the universe for this Kairos moment, we like to call it. You know, the Greek system of time in chronos and kairos. Chronos is where we get the word chronology, and kairos is like a spiritual moment. And we really are living in this moment when artisans want to, you know, redefine who they are to the world and not let the gatekeepers and the folks who have traditionally held the data, held the purses, you know, and I think there's this thing that's happening, right, where artisans are like, I want ownership, I want equity. You know, I've been spending a lot of time on cap table activism, I call it. And there's even this notion of like, what does a modern company look like? Like, how do we actually create, you know, different equity structures for cap tables? I think all of that is happening and swirling around in a very particular moment in time. And data and understanding your audience is the oil. It's the crown jewel. And it's the difference maker. And I used to say a lot to artists. I used to say to art. I thought my wife was saying something to me. Sorry. I used to say to artists all the time. You know, you don't own your eyeballs. And my greatest gift.
Exactly.
My greatest gift. My first job, if you would, in the industry. My best friend's mother is Dionne Warwick, and so I have this debt of gratitude to the OGs. So I started working with Dionne Warwick, and her niece is Whitney Houston, and I ended up, you know, going on Whitney Houston tours and being involved there and seeing that, and I feel this debt of gratitude to the older generation, the artists who just played music, right, and hope that someone was taking care of their books and the records were being marketed and promoted. And when I got a chance to like break through, and I don't know why they let my black ass in there and actually get a high-powered job at a record label, I was like, oh, this is some shit. Like. One, these artists don't really know what's going on with their books. And two, they damn sure don't even know how to interpret the data, because they would make better business decisions if they actually knew the data, what was happening. I remember sitting with a then young woman and her father named Beyonce and her father named Matthew, and telling them that they should actually put web maintenance in their contract because all the other white rock bands had that in their contracts. And I think that there always needs to be, you know, activists and advocates for you inside these halls. But then I thought about it, I was like, why not just be your own advocate and your own activist? And instead of relying on some, you know, company to actually bring your dream to life, you know, think like a startup founder and be the startup founder of your own artistic career. And I think what you're doing is providing the oil so that artists can then see themselves as startup founders, not just like, hey, Mantan, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, but this is where I think the power and the opportunity is, right? Because I'm like, we can learn from and grow from and stand on the shoulders of the giants that have led us this far. But as you're saying, it's like we don't have to be constrained by the same lack of resources or access that they had, because we have all this knowledge and we've moved into this space where we are entrepreneurs and we recognize and we embrace that as multi-hyphenates, as creatives, as thinkers, as business people, as technologists, as data nerds. It's all good. It's all in there. And having done that, we realize that, wait a minute, what if this artist could own the relationship with their audience and the insights and the understanding of that audience? You and I know that most of the artists never made their money off the records, right? They made it off of everything else, the touring and merchandising, the endorsements and whatever, creating that persona that was monetizable. Well, if you're going to really effectively monetize that, you need to know your audience. It's like I say to people all the time, you understand the startup game. Okay, so how do you calculate the lifetime customer value of a customer you don't know?
That's right.
Right? And the entire media industry has been built on that. If we change that, what does that mean for the kind of power that this next generation of creatives can generate, and what that can mean for the communities that they come from and for the culture that has incubated them?
It's an unlock. It's a complete unlock, and it is freedom. It is true freedom. It is the freedom that people are looking for. It is the people the freedom that people assume is going to come from a president or a government. Or no, the freedom actually comes from your ability, especially if you're an artist or you're selling something, to actually understand your audience and then to iterate or pivot or be in what I like to say is operating at the speed of culture. Like if you can operate at the speed of culture, right, which actually is important that you actually have, back to what I was saying earlier, your feet on the street. And the only way you're going to have your feet on the street, because you can't live in LA and still be in Sao Paulo and still be in Rio, unless you understand the data and can actually draw insights from it. And then you can move at the speed of culture.
My dude, like we are so on the same level. I've been saying this quote for years, that culture is everything.
Yeah.
Culture is everything. Culture is literally like the water that the fish swims in. Yeah. The fish doesn't perceive or know of water. Yeah. They wouldn't really fully understand it until they're taken out of it. But that is what culture is. It is everything. It underpins, show up at a law firm in your, Hawaiian t-shirt and your sandals, see how that flow for you. Vis-a-vis show up at your, on every day at your startup wearing your button-down suit or getting up on stage. I mean, it permeates everything. And the thing is, culture is something that a lot of times people think of as secondary. Like we're gonna look at the brass tacks, we're gonna look at the numbers. If you're talking to development people, they're gonna look at like transparency at this. Politics, they're gonna look at like, well, good governance, yada yada. I'm like, it's all about culture. If you have a culture of nepotism or of lies, if you have a culture of like low classedness, that's one thing. If you have a culture of excellence, culture of striving, a culture of community or collaboration, that's another thing. And when we're looking at like how do you activate that element, when you think about power, we are all caught up right now in this political game. But I would argue that we already have cultural power. And I'm talking specifically of communities of color. We have cultural power. How do we maximize and leverage that? That's what I'm interested in.
Oh man, totally. I could go on for hours about these conversations. I have to go to my world. You have to get to your world. We are full of power. We are full of inspiration. And this morning, we are full of incredible insights around the intersectionality of data, of hip hop, of culture, of creativity. I didn't get to talk about your move to the continent. We'll get to that another time because I actually,
next time.
I'll be honest with you, had Trump had won, I was definitely trying to get an extra real estate agent from you.
So one thing actually that I should mention on that tip is that I did come back to the continent, but we bring in people back. So for example, this would be something I would love to have help from your community on. South by Southwest panel picker. We actually have a panel called How Music and can build movements from moments. We have myself and Mike De La Rocha, who's an amazing artist and creative out of LA. But we also have an incredible young singer rap MC named Steph out of Nairobi. And you'll be having LA, Mauritius, and Nairobi having a conversation about the future of art and movement building across these bridges. So I really, people could check that out on South by Southwest, vote for us in the panel picker. But I appreciate you giving us the chance to have that talk across the waters.
Well, let's do more. This was great. Thank you so much to brother Derrick Ashong. Thank you to all of you who watch and faithfully check in on this show on every week. This is great. This is cool. I'm about this. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, brother.
You too, fam. More soon.
Peace.